All right, listeners, ready for another deep dive? Today, we're heading to South Africa.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it is. We're going to explore this haunting legend.
A legend.
The legend of Vera the ghost.
Ooh, I've heard whispers of this one.
Yeah, and it's captivated people for generations.
Mm.
But we're not just going to rehash the spooky story.
So we're going deeper.
Exactly. We'll look at its connection to South African history anxieties, even today.
This will be a fascinating deep dive.
I think so, too.
Uh-uh.
Now, this legend, it's not just some campfire tale, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Vera's journey through South Africa, it kind of mirrors real-life experiences, especially during the 1980s.
Ah, a time of immense change.
Right. So let's picture Vera's village.
Okay.
The source describes it as rolling hills, almost like a hidden world, and at the center of it all.
Is Vera?
Yeah, Vera, this young woman who is captivatingly beautiful.
I see, but it sounds like there's more to it.
You're right. There's this shadow of mystery around her family.
Oh.
Yeah, the source mentions her mother was a respected herbalist. Yeah, like she knew all the traditional remedies, even maybe had a touch of the mystical.
Oh, wow.
Which adds to the intrigue around Vera.
Definitely sets the stage for something unusual.
Right. And then we have Stephen.
Stephen.
Yeah, he was this wealthy miner's son, completely head over heels for Vera.
A classic love story.
Almost idyllic. Yeah, he'd bring her wildflowers instead of those, store-bought bouquets.
Oh, that's sweet.
Speaks to a genuine connection. But then,
What happened?
one summer evening, Vera vanishes.
Just like that.
Without a trace, the village is thrown into chaos.
Oh, no.
Stephen's heartbroken villagers are searching frantically.
No, Vera.
Nowhere. And then the whispers start.
Whispers.
Yeah, at first it's just strange happenings, like doors opening and closing on their own, candles going out suddenly, and this feeling of unease.
You feel something's off.
Exactly. Then comes the first sighting.
Someone saw her.
A hunter claims he saw Vera in the woods, but
What?
she was pale, almost ghost-like. And it's not just a fleeting thing she's seen at windows.
At windows.
Yeah, even peering to a young boy whispering about being taken away.
This is getting creepy.
Right. The villagers, they try to appease her spirit, leaving offerings, hoping to understand.
Why she's back?
Exactly. And it seems she's trying to communicate,
Really?
but in a cryptic way.
Like how?
The village elder says she warned him. The past must be remembered,
The past must be remembered.
lest people fall as I have fallen.
That's chilling. And what happened next?
Well, Vera, she doesn't stay in the village.
Where does she go?
Her story, it travels all the way to Johannesburg.
Johannesburg.
That bustling city that was attracting people from all over South Africa, especially in the 1980s.
Makes sense. It was a hub of activity.
Yeah. And to understand Vera's story, we need to understand South Africa during that time.
A time of intense change, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for those of us who maybe aren't as familiar with that period,
Could you paint us a picture?
of course, imagine a country divided by apartheid,
Apartheid.
a system of racial segregation. It impacted every aspect of life.
Wow.
In the rural villages, life was steeped in tradition,
I see.
but also limited opportunities, especially for Black South Africans.
Ah, I understand.
But Johannesburg, it represented economic opportunity, especially with its gold mines.
I can see the appeal.
People were drawn there hoping for a better life, even with the harsh realities of apartheid.
So this allure of Johannesburg is key to Vera's story.
Absolutely. It's like she's pulled toward the city, mirroring the migration patterns of so many South Africans.
Fascinating.
Right. And in Johannesburg, there are these three brief but significant encounters with Vera.
Encounters. Tell me more.
A businessman, a young man, and a taxi driver all describe seeing the woman who looked like her.
Like Vera.
Yeah, alluring, almost seductive.
Hmm.
But then she vanishes, leaving them unsettled.
It's like she's a fleeting presence.
Exactly. And within Johannesburg, there's a place where her story seems to resonate even more.
Where's that?
Meadowlands, a township in Soweto.
Right.
Yeah, along with many other townships, they were created as segregated living areas.
Segregated.
Yeah, for Black South Africans under apartheid, overcrowded, under-resourced, but full of life.
A stark contrast.
Yeah, and many men who lived there were mine workers drawn to the city for work.
But forced to live on the fringes.
Exactly. And in Meadowlands, Vera's story takes on a new dimension.
How so?
We hear personal anecdotes about her, like my own mother's experience seeing a beautiful woman who vanished on a foggy evening.
Oh, your own mother.
Yeah, and there's Gogo, an elderly woman who claims to have seen Vera near a local shebeen.
A shebeen. What's that?
It's a place where people gathered, often illegally, to socialize and drink,
Interesting.
right? And then there's Baba Zulu, who encountered her in a shebeen, felt an icy breeze,
And then turned
turned to
back.
find her gone.
He's just appeared again.
These stories woven into the fabric of Meadowlands suggest Vera's presence resonates deeply there.
A place marked by hardship, resilience, and the legacy of apartheid.
It's like she embodies those unseen forces at play, both in the historical context and in our need to understand the unexplained.
So the question remains, what is Vera's story truly about?
And that's what we'll explore next. Stay tuned as we delve into the potential connection to human trafficking.
Human trafficking.
Yeah, similar stories from around the world.
I'm intrigued.
And what it all means for you.
I can't wait.
See you soon.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the legend of Vera. We've journeyed from her village to Johannesburg, even touched upon the hardships faced in places like Meadowlands.
A truly fascinating story.
It is right. Now let's explore a connection you, our listener, might find particularly relevant today.
What's that?
The issue of human trafficking.
Ah, a sensitive topic.
It is, but an important one, especially when we look at Vera's story through the lens of South Africa in the 1980s.
Right, a time of so much upheaval.
Remember, this was a time when many people were migrating to cities like Johannesburg, seeking a better life.
Just like Vera.
Yeah, it was that same allure of opportunity,
Yeah.
that promise of a different future.
That drew her in.
And it makes you think about how vulnerable people, especially young women, might have been targeted during that time.
It's a chilling thought.
The source might not explicitly link Vera's disappearance to human trafficking.
But
The themes, they resonate strongly with the tactics used by traffickers even today.
you're right, the promise of jobs, a better life, a chance to escape difficult circumstances.
All used to lure individuals into exploitative situations.
It's scary how those parallels emerge.
It is just like the villagers were left wondering what happened to Vera.
The families of trafficking victims face that same agonizing uncertainty.
Exactly, and that's why it's so crucial to raise awareness about this issue.
Absolutely. Human trafficking operates in the shadows.
But stories like Vera's, even though fictional, can act as a reminder that these dangers are real.
A powerful reminder.
So how do we connect this back to Vera's story and what it might tell us about South Africa in the 1980s? Were there specific vulnerabilities that made people more susceptible to trafficking during that time?
Certainly, apartheid created a system where Black South Africans were denied opportunities, forced into poverty, and limited choices.
And that allure of Johannesburg, with its perceived wealth and potential for a better life?
It could be exploited by those seeking to prey on the vulnerable.
It's like that contrast between rural village life and the urban landscape of Johannesburg becomes a breeding ground for this kind of exploitation.
Precisely, people desperate for a way out, willing to take risks, trusting those who offer a glimmer of hope.
So even though Vera's story doesn't provide concrete evidence of human trafficking,
It raises those questions, those uncomfortable possibilities.
that were very much a part of the social fabric of that time.
A haunting reminder.
It's a stark reminder that even amidst the progress and changes South Africa has undergone,
Those echoes of vulnerability remain.
and those systemic issues can still make people targets. It makes you think about the broader implications, doesn't it?
It does, and that's what makes exploring folklore so fascinating. It's not just about spooky tales or supernatural encounters.
It's about understanding the human condition.
The fears and anxieties that shape our stories and reflect the realities of our world.
Speaking of broader implications, one thing I found really interesting was the discovery of similar vanishing woman stories in cultures around the world.
Oh, really?
It's like there's this universal thread that connects these narratives despite their geographical and cultural differences.
There's definitely a pattern there, a certain archetype.
An archetype.
Yeah, a figure of mystery and allure, often tied to themes of loss warning and the power of the unseen world. For example, in Japanese folklore, there's Yuki Onna, a beautiful woman who appears in snowy landscapes, said to lure travelers to their deaths.
Whoa, that's intense.
And in Celtic mythology, we have the banshee, whose wailing cries are believed to herald a coming death.
It's fascinating how these stories, though unique to their own cultures, share those common elements.
The beautiful, often dangerous woman, the sudden disappearance, the sense of foreboding and warning.
Why do you think these themes resonate so strongly across cultures?
Well, there are likely multiple reasons these stories tap into primal fears.
Like,
The fear of the unknown, the loss of loved ones. the fragility of life itself.
Right, it's like they offer explanations for the unexplainable warnings about potential dangers, a way to process grief and loss.
Exactly. They provide a framework for understanding the world around us, both the seen and the unseen.
And in a way, they empower us, don't they?
How so?
They give us a way to confront our fears, to grapple with the mysteries of life and death, and to make sense of the world around us.
I see your point.
So we've really gone deep, haven't we, exploring Vera's story.
Yeah, from her village to Johannesburg and all those global connections.
And the human trafficking aspect, too.
Such an important topic.
It is. But now, as we wrap up our deep dive, what can we take away from all of this?
Well, one thing that stands out to me is the importance of remembering.
Remembering.
Yeah, Vera's warning to the village elder, remember. The past must be remembered. Those who forget will fall as I have fallen.
Right, that was chilling.
It goes beyond just the story, though, you know?
What do you mean?
It's like she's urging us to acknowledge our own past, both personal and collective.
To learn from history's mistakes.
Exactly, and to make sure those who've been silenced or forgotten have their stories heard.
And that connects to human trafficking, too, doesn't it?
It does. It's a modern-day tragedy that thrives in the shadows, preying on the vulnerable, relying on silence and forgetting.
So Vera's story becomes a metaphor for speaking up.
For shining a light on injustice.
Giving a voice to those who've been exploited. It's a call to action.
It is. It's a reminder that we need to be aware, recognize the signs of exploitation.
And support organizations fighting human trafficking.
Absolutely. We need to protect the vulnerable.
It's about connecting the dots between folklore history and present-day realities.
And being informed, educating ourselves about the issues that impact our communities and the world.
Knowledge is power, but it's only valuable when we use it.
Exactly. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the legend of Vera,
we encourage you to stay curious, keep asking questions,
and seek out those diverse perspectives.
What stood out to you from Vera's story? Did it make you think differently about folklore?
About South Africa? About the world we live in today?
And most importantly, what can you do in your own life to create a safer and more just world?
Even small actions can have a ripple effect.
Remember, Vera's story, despite being rooted in the supernatural, ultimately reminds us of our shared humanity.
It encourages us to remember the past, be aware of the present, and act with compassion and courage in the face of injustice.
Stay safe out there, fellow deep divers, and keep exploring the stories that shape our world.